Hello, everyone. Today, I have a story that's as heart-wrenching as it is shocking. It's about the complicated dynamics of family relationships and the unexpected choices people make. This is My Parents Chose Their 27-year-old lover over attending my wedding. Get ready for a tale that will keep you on the edge of your seat as we dive into the complexities of love, family, and personal boundaries. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into this captivating story. My 27 male parents are in a polycule relationship with a man. I've always been mildly uncomfortable with it, just due to various features about the whole thing. For starters, the man is as young as I am, and he basically now lives in my former room growing up. I don't say anything about it as it's their life, and they can live it as they like, but I'll be frank here, all of it discomforts me. Nevertheless, I have my own life, and I still love them, and I try not to think of that in any capacity. They're happy, and that's good for them. With that background out of the way, I'm getting married soon, and I wanted my parents to be there. They were happy for me, and it was great. Then my 28, and I got to arranging everything for the wedding, and we eventually began arranging the seating. I wanted to run my seating plan by my parents, as they know some people better, so I emailed it to them and asked them to look it over. They looked it over and then called me to say that I had missed a seat for Dave, 27, a fake name for their significant other. I told them I didn't think Dave would be coming. They said they'd all be coming, and I said I wasn't sure if that was a good idea. I tried to tiptoe to tell them not to bring Dave, but they were insistent, so I was frank with them. I told them I was uncomfortable with Dave coming and wanted to share my special day with them, not Dave. I tried to explain why I didn't think it was appropriate. At this point, things took a turn for the worse. We had a back and forth, which devolved into a fight. Eventually, they said they'd much rather not come, if they couldn't come as a couple. I, in a moment of anger, then said, "Great, then don't come," in a passive-aggressive tone. I haven't talked to my parents since then. In a way, I feel like they've changed so much from when I was young. I still love them and wanted them to come, but this is just not how I imagine my wedding going. It's their life to live, but this is my wedding. It's supposed to be about me and my SO, surrounded by people we cherish. Dave and I have no relationship. He's a stranger to me, and respectfully, I genuinely am completely fine with that. I want them to come, but if they're gonna bring Dave, I'd much rather they don't. I love them, but I don't want Dave there. So, am I the idiot? Edit. We're not doing a +1 system. The wedding is only for the people we love and cherish, and their families that we love and cherish. It's a 53-person wedding, so it isn't huge. Not the idiot. It's pretty despicable of your parents to behave this way, and honestly, I would be extremely uncomfortable if they were sleeping with someone my age, living in my childhood room. That's a level of creepy I'd never get over. Agreed. I can't believe how selfish his parents are. They understand that this makes OP uncomfortable, but they want to have Dave at the wedding anyway. Do what you want on your own time, but don't upset your child on his wedding day. They can suck it up for one day, but won't. His parents have effectively chosen this man over their own son. I'm so sad for him. I'd say the same thing if this was just mom's new boyfriend too, before anyone gets offended. If the son doesn't want the new guy at his wedding, don't bring the new guy to the wedding. How hard is that? They strike me as the type of parents who think they're amazingly hip, cool, and trendy and think everyone wishes they could be like them. So, they flaunt their lifestyle choices and tell everyone in detail about what goes on. They're incredibly self-absorbed narcissists who fancy themselves as the head of their own imaginary fan club. They would totally spend as much of the wedding promoting their lifestyle to anyone and everyone who's too polite to tell them to screw off. I actually think this is far more complicated than people might first think. If we're really accepting of people for who they are, should that not extend to this? If they're in love and happy? You are the idiot, Opie. I get that it's a weird scenario for you, but I'm not comfortable is also what people say about the same gender partner, a different race, a different religion, etc., etc. This is someone who's viewed and treated as a partner in their life together. He's important to them, and if they're important to you, you're gonna have to learn to live with that. You can invite whoever you want to your wedding, but I also think you should grow up and accept that they're poly. Me and my ex divorced when our sons were preschooler and pretween. We had our moments, but actually became terrific friends after we divorced. We'd even spend time together without our kids. We've both remarried and our spouses get along fine. In fact, my ex and her husband asked me to assist with their having a kid because he couldn't. They have a son who's a preschooler. He's biologically mine, but was happily raised by my ex and her husband. My wife is pregnant, and my ex will be in the delivery room with us when she gives birth next month. My tween is happy we all get along, but my older child is starting to have issues with it. He's always complaining about us hanging out and being over each other's homes. I asked him what was wrong with it, and he said it was just weird and to stop. I told him my relationship with his mom was none of his business. We'd be friends even if he didn't exist, so deal with it. My ex thinks I should apologize, but I'm not apologizing to a brat, dictating who I can or can't be friends with. Edit. I haven't been with my ex since we were married, and my donation was made in a clinic, and no one but me, my wife, my ex, and her husband know about it. I have zero attraction to my ex. We're all comfortable with each other because we've been friends since high school and have an unbreakable bond. You are the idiot. Your son is identifying that your situation is unconventional and he's not adjusting well, but he's a young teen and doesn't know how to properly voice what he's feeling. There's a way to validate his feelings and still tell him it isn't his place to comment without being an idiot to your kid, but your ego won't see past supposedly being dictated to by a child who can't adequately express themselves. Don't be surprised when he doesn't respect you as an adult and may not even want to see you if you keep this "I'm not apologizing to a brat" mentality up. Oh, man. You're successfully navigating a healthy relationship between you and your ex, and it's so sad to see that you fail spectacularly with your own kid. The dude feels awkward about it, and instead of helping him work through those feelings, you got defensive and acted immaturely. You have so many kids, but don't act like a father figure. I wonder if Opie and his ex are swingers, or having a polycule relationship, and the kid finally picked up on it, or if someone at school probably said something. Not gonna lie, being a sperm donor for your ex, who you co-parent with, is weird, in my opinion. Your kid's half-brother is actually their full brother, but with legally different parents. I'm an adult just hearing about this, and it's difficult for me to fathom. I can't imagine how a young teen and a tween would feel. Their whole relationship is strange. I wouldn't be bringing my friends around my parents, that's for sure. I can't fathom how step-parents are okay with all of this, especially the wife letting him father a child and handing it over. I'm betting that the kid's parents are questioning their relationships too. And if friends' parents are talking about it, the kid or his friends likely have heard the talk. I'm not surprised the kid asked them to stop the relationship. My wife is currently battling cancer, and one of the things she's told me she's struggling with the most was losing her hair. She's been given a near 100% chance of survival since we caught it early, but the chemotherapy has destroyed her hair anyway, and she's had to shave what was left off a few weeks ago. Not long after that, she suggested we attempt to get our nearly adult daughter, Anna, to do so as well. Anna has very long hair that she puts a lot of care into, so it was appropriate to ask her in private if she wanted to or would be willing to do such a thing. She told me she didn't want to cut her hair, and I figured that was the end of it. However, they came home from a girls' shopping trip, which they occasionally do, and Anna had a buzzed haircut. That struck me as odd after what she'd said. So, after dinner, I talked to her, and she told me that my wife had said she would never forgive Anna if she didn't show her support by buzzing her head. I asked her if she was happy about it, and she said she wasn't. When I went to bed, I brought it up with my wife, and she said it was Anna's choice to or not. I just told her how I'd see the situation. I told her off, saying she needed to respect Anna's personal choices and that a nearly adult girl against shaving her head wasn't exactly out of the ordinary. However, my wife said it was to show support for her. I've been sleeping on the couch ever since. I love my wife, and I understand she's going through something traumatic. However, her attitude comes off as very manipulative to me, and that's not behavior I feel I can personally accept. I'm unsure if I can move past this to continue the relationship. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your wife is a flaming idiot. I'm sorry that she has cancer, but what she did to your daughter was very abusive. If she cannot deal mentally with her disease and treatment, then she needs professional help, not to manipulate and coerce your daughter into making a choice she didn't want to make. Make no mistake, she abused your daughter. Honestly, cancer or no cancer, if I were in your shoes, I would seriously be considering divorce, if only to get your daughter to safety. Your wife wanted to use your daughter as a prop for her cancer. She knows she will survive, but she wants the attention she'll get from it. Forcing your daughter to sacrifice something that's probably very memorable about her, so people can gush about it, is her way of getting more attention. It's unbelievably toxic, what she's done. The manipulation is honestly shocking. The power behind showing support through shaving your head for a cancer patient is that it's unasked and voluntary. Just asking or demanding someone shave their head because you have cancer is wild. I think it's actually just pure jealousy. Mom lost her hair and hated that your daughter still had hers. So many mothers are their kids' first bullies. She was jealous of her younger, beautiful daughter with a head full of hair and wanted her to feel unattractive. I cannot imagine the daughter's shock and disappointment when mother-daughter's day out suddenly morphed into, dramatically alter your appearance or else you don't love me. Two choices, pick now. Shaving your head does nothing for a person fighting cancer. It doesn't make chemo and its side effects any easier. It doesn't make radiation and its side effects any easier. It doesn't make surgery and its side effects any easier. It only appeals to the victim's vanity. If I have to be bald, no one around me should have hair. That's rude, cruel, self-centered, and extremely entitled and very, very wrong. Tell your wife to grovel to your daughter for forgiveness and buy her as realistic of a wig as she can, ASAP. Otherwise, in one short year, she'll lose her daughter forever and lose you right now. I say this with much hesitation, but my sister-in-law, her husband, and their child are all severely obese. Both sister-in-law and husband are over 300 pounds, and their daughter, tween, is easily pushing 200. The type of people to buy a smoker and giant chest freezer for 3K, but fail to pay their mortgage or land tax and ask the family to help them out. And when they're called out on it, it's met with making sure my family is fed is my top priority. Not saying it shouldn't be a priority, but when you're feeding 3 people enough food for 10 people a day, it's absolutely an issue. Last year, we extended the invite to them twice, and both times, they ate food so quickly that many people didn't even know there was food available. I vividly remember them putting 3 hamburgers, for hot dogs, and darn near a half a container of pasta salad on their plates, and still going up for seconds and thirds. I wish I were kidding, but I'm not. The next time around, I bought more food. They ended up taking all the leftovers without even asking and without anyone's knowledge until after my kids wanted more food and everything was taken, dish and all, and they had been the only ones who left. So, this year, I didn't invite them. I can't afford to feed them, and quite frankly, I don't want to feed them. I don't want to have a beach day and have to run to the store midway through to get my kids something to eat when I know I packed and cooked plenty of food to last the day. So, I invited everyone but them. The day went great. We weren't hungry after for once. Sister-in-law caught wind, which I expected, and she immediately asked, we would have liked a family meal too. So, I simply said, I can't afford to feed you. She asked what I meant, and I explained as nicely as possible. Now, I'm being called every name in the book for fat shaming and embarrassing her. Not the idiot. Explain to them that there's a difference between fat shaming and greed shaming. They could eat a respectful amount with the family, then go home and eat 6 more dinners on their dime. No one would shame them. The fact that they choose to exploit the family and make others go hungry is what's unacceptable. Greed shaming is the perfect way to phrase this. If they weren't so greedy and weren't taking food out of people's mouths, that would be a different story. Who the heck takes food or leftovers when people are still at a party and still planning on eating? That is so weird. I'm gonna go to Thanksgiving and just walk out with the turkey. Why not? Land tax can wait. LMAO, gotta feed the fridge. And her first reaction was that she would have liked a family meal. Her response really says it all. They also wanted a free meal. They didn't go to see people, catch up, and have fun. They came to eat, and you're the food ATM. Being together solely to eat is a type of party too, but then you pull your weight, no pun intended, by either paying your part or bringing it. Tell her they're welcome to bring their own food next time and that you want your plates back. My sister is 2 years younger than me. Growing up, she'd always come to me for help with things our parents wanted her to do alone or for money, because I had money young from helping out with my best friend's grandparents, who always threw us $5 or $10 for doing stuff for them. But my sister was a very popular kid and had a bunch of friends who were popular, and I was not, so she never liked being seen with me. When we got older, it was worse, because she'd ask to borrow money, or she'd ask me to drive her home from school, but if I dared approach her around her friends, she'd get so mad and say it was embarrassing to be seen with me. She and her friends used to make fun of my best friend and me too, because he's a guy, and they'd say we were secretly dating, or he was secretly gay. She'd throw out some wild crap just to fit in. It annoyed me, because she'd want something when none of her friends were around. I'd say we weren't at all close at that time, despite me giving in normally, because I did love her, but she was crappy to me and to my friend. As adults now who are 26 and 28, our relationship got better eventually, and she improved a lot as a person. She apologized to me and my best friend for going along and spreading more rumors about us. She even asked me to be her maid of honor, which shocked me, because I didn't ask her to be mine. I thought we were finally starting to be close as sisters, but she started treating me like crap again. She wanted me to change my hair completely. My hair is pink and all textured. Then she wanted me to cover up my 2 tattoos, one of which represents my kids, and told me that I looked like a biker and not a bridesmaid. When we went dress shopping, she'd always have something negative to say about the dresses they had me try, while she was crazy about her friends' dresses. After a few months, she told me she felt like I'd be too distracting on her wedding day, and would I mind being a regular guest and not a bridesmaid. Something clicked for me then, and I told her not to worry about me being a distraction, because not only would I step down as her maid of honor, but I'll keep myself away from her wedding and do her the kindness of not being there when she's clearly still embarrassed by me like she was as a kid. She freaked out and said she never said she didn't want me to be there. She told me I'm her sister, and I should be there. My parents and so were so disappointed when they learned what happened, but said that they understood my decision, and it was probably for the best overall. My sister's fiancé accused me of holding the past against her and overreacting to what she wanted for her wedding day, and I should do better. My sister cried on the phone, asking me why I was being mean to her. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your sister is the idiot. She never changed. At heart, she's still the popular girl who cares about what everyone thinks and wants all the attention for herself. Apologies don't mean anything if the behavior continues, and here she is, shaming you for your appearance. Screw that. Of course she wants you there. She just wants all the attention on her, yours included. If you're not there, people will ask why you're not there. That's probably worse in her selfish mind than you having pink hair and tattoos. Honestly, because the truth reveals that she's an idiot. You don't owe her anything, just because you both came out of the same uterus. You're not the idiot for stepping down and not attending. I'd also block her and her fiancé's phone. They're mad that they can't use and abuse you over wedding duties, and her friends will note your absence, causing embarrassment. I'm actually proud of you for taking care of yourself. Good on the parents for not trying to force you. It's refreshing to hear that, Opie. Often, parents are always siding with the perpetrators. And there you have it, a journey through the emotional turmoil of family expectations and personal boundaries. If this story resonated with you or left you wanting more, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell to stay updated with our latest stories. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever faced a difficult choice about family and personal values? Until next time, remember, standing up for yourself can sometimes be the hardest, yet most important. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I have a jaw-dropping story that will leave you stunned. The title says it all. Busted. Confronting my cheating husband and in-laws, You won't believe what happened next. My name is Sarah, a divorced woman in my late 20s. I'm going to share a story that happened about a year ago about my ex-husband's unbelievable betrayal and the astonishing events that followed. I was with John, my ex-husband, since our college days. After graduating and securing jobs, we got married 2 years later. John, who had a sales job at a cosmetics manufacturing company, used to say, "Appearance is everything in sales." And so he put even more effort into maintaining his looks than he did in college. Around the time we got married, his company started doing quite well, so John started investing more in his outfits. He was so particular about his hair that he went to the salon twice a month, just to keep it perfect. I mean, you can't have a sales rep for a cosmetics company looking shabby. So I had to hold back my feelings whenever I thought, isn't he going a bit overboard? Especially when comparing his situation to mine. As for me, I quit my job to become a homemaker after we got married. After about a year, I started thinking about having kids. But John would always respond with, "We don't have enough money. It's just not possible right now," and was reluctant to agree. So, I reluctantly started working part-time to convince him. I juggled 2 jobs, worked 5 days a week at both a gas station and a grocery store. It was exhausting, both physically and emotionally, to the point where I felt I might be busier than John himself. I couldn't even go to a hair salon often. Yet, what kept me going was John's kindness that he expressed occasionally. Once every 3 months or so, there were days when he would make a reservation for the both of us at the hair salon. We spent the whole day together just being out on a date. We would get our hair done in the morning and then go shopping or watch movies. Although there were things I wish John did better, the time spent together on our dates made up for it. Those dates helped ease out our tension and maintain our healthy relationship. However, 2 years after getting married, Megan, a friend from our college days who lived nearby, told me this. "Sarah, did you know there's a rumor going around that John's cheating on you with another woman?" Of course, I, who had no way of knowing such a thing, was shocked. Unlike me, Megan was already a mother of 2. She was enjoying her daily meetups with other moms in the park. Among the gossip there, it seemed there was one about John going into a hotel with a young woman every Friday. Sure enough, John was usually late coming home on Fridays, but that was because he had to tally the week's sales results for the weekend. At that time, I completely believed his story. Thinking it must be some mistake, I tried to tell Megan, but she countered. I saw it once too. Megan grabbed my shoulder and persuaded me in a strong tone. "Something's fishy for sure. You have to talk to him about this." That day, I told John about the gossip. Really because Megan pushed me to talk to him, but also because I wanted to be reassured and tell others that it wasn't true. I thought that if I confirmed this with John and he denied it, I could feel at ease. As expected, John refuted my story, saying it was just a rumor. There was a female employee who came from out of state for a meeting. It seemed she would be late returning home, so I took her to the hotel she stayed at. "Don't take strange rumors seriously." He snapped back and denied the rumor. I didn't think he would be this upset for being doubted, so I didn't know how to respond for a second. Then I felt very bad for doubting my husband when he did nothing wrong. I deeply regretted accusing my husband of cheating even for a bit. However, right after that, I witnessed my husband entering a hotel with a woman. The two of them, arm in arm, looked like nothing but lovers. John was wearing the suit he had worn to work that day, and the woman was in a hoodie. It didn't look like something you'd wear to a company-wide meeting. I remembered that they were seen going to the hotel every Friday, so I started to stake out around the hotel in the evenings every Friday, and sure enough, every week, John appeared with this woman. John always had his sunglasses on, and the woman had her hood deep over her eyes, seemingly trying not to be noticed. But it was the figure of my husband whom I saw every day. He wasn't under much disguise, so it was clear that it was my husband. I knew I needed proof, so I took pictures with my phone. I had to do something, so I took the initiative to contact my in-laws and explain the situation. However, the two of them, who have always been sweet on John, their youngest child, brushed off my story as if it were just a rumor. What a nice guy escorting a girl who's on a business trip safely to her hotel. Seeing my father-in-law start to praise John, I showed him the picture of John with this woman. Please, you two, look at this. The two of them seemed a bit flustered when they saw the pictures, but they quickly composed themselves. A young man with a young woman? It's normal for others to take it that way. The mother-in-law laughed, and the father-in-law nodded in agreement. The fact that it's every week is strange, and no matter how many times I look at the woman's outfit, it doesn't look like she just left the office. Their reaction got on my nerves, so to prove my husband's infidelity, I decided to get some more solid proof. I knew John was careless. He often leaves his phone on the desk with all of his notifications on. Everything pops up on his screen, both the messages and its senders. I'd never thought about going through his notifications until now, but of course, it was different this time. I took a peek at his phone that was left on his desk as usual. Looking forward to our beach trip on Friday night, I was both shocked and dumbfounded. I couldn't believe they were brazen enough to chat about such a thing through texts. I felt like they were treating me like I was stupid, which only intensified my anger. That very night, John told me that he had to go on a trip starting Friday night for his company's gathering. He said it so casually, but I knew it was just a facade. It was amusing to see him trying to hide something so obvious, and I felt a sense of superiority. When I asked where he was going, he responded with the name of a beach resort by the mountains. It seems he's staying at a hotel, which we've been to together before. When I called the hotel, they indeed had a reservation under John's name for Friday night. That Friday, I decided to bring my in-laws to the said hotel. Charles, my nephew-in-law, a vocational school student living with my in-laws, also wanted to come. He must have heard from my in-laws. Charles is the only son of John's eldest brother. He lost his parents in a car accident when he was in elementary school and has since been raised by my in-laws, perhaps due to their close age. Charles was particularly fond of John among many uncles and aunts. Following John's lead, he even started to become interested in fashion and has been saying he wants to be a hairstylist. John seemed to be very happy that Charles liked him. The two of them were more like brothers than uncle and nephew. They called each other by all sorts of nicknames, too. He must have found it hard to believe the unfaithfulness of his beloved young uncle, just like me, a little while ago. He must have wanted concrete proof that things were not what they seemed. The thought of this hurt my heart, but in the end, he couldn't come because he had school. Fateful Friday. I arrived at the hotel a little earlier than the time John and the women's check-in time and waited for them with my skeptical in-laws. He's probably not coming, my father-in-law murmured, relieved when they didn't show up after waiting for a while. However, just as my father-in-law sighed and started to get up from his seat, they arrived. A man in a suit and incongruous sunglasses and a woman whose face was half hidden by the hood of her hoodie arrived. As soon as the two walked through the entrance of the hotel, they kissed without waiting for the automatic door behind them to close. At that moment, the woman's hood fell down, revealing her hidden face. I was stunned by the beauty that had come into clear view. She had cute acorn-like eyes, a small nose pointed up, beautifully upturned lips, and her inner hair beautifully dyed bright red, which was familiar. She was a hairstylist at the hair salon my husband frequented. I had had her shampoo and blow-dry my hair several times. I remember talking to her across the mirror, saying, "I'm going on a date with my husband after this." I was completely taken aback. I had been unknowingly going to the salon where the woman my husband was cheating with worked, excited about my post-haircut date with him. Did she think I was a dumb old woman, oblivious to my husband's infidelity, while she dried my hair? Thinking this, my anger began to boil. I wanted to strike down both John and the woman. I looked at my in-laws. You both understand now, right? John is undoubtedly having an affair. They made faces as if they had bitten into sand and apologized. Never mind that. Could you please cooperate with me? Later at dinner, my in-laws and I sat next to John and the woman. My plan to get back at them was quite simple. We would appear in front of them and confront them in a situation where they couldn't make excuses. I thought that if it became known that he had been unfaithful not only to me, but also to his parents, even John would learn his lesson. Good day. As I greeted him, John turning to me widened his eyes so much that the outlines of his pupils were discernible. His lover asked, "What? Who are they?" but John's half-open mouth just flapped without any words coming out. Anger surged to me again towards his mistress, who didn't even recognize me. I retorted in a sharp tone, more like, "Who are you? A colleague from work?" For the first time, his mistress reacted and was taken aback. Seems like she finally recognized me. She tried to get help from John by making eye contact, but John was stunned too. I blurted out, "So it's true that you go to a hotel with some woman. How could you be so bold and lie to me? You were actually cheating on me, and yet you got mad at me for doubting you. As soon as you guys entered here, you two were kissing. We saw it clearly." At this point, anger flared in John's eyes. He glared at me and said in a low voice, "Cheating? What do you mean?" And raised his voice, "So you're telling me it's all my fault? Shut up. You are so busy with your part-time job or whatever and never bothered to dress well for yourself. You always look so shabby, and I can't be going out with someone like you." Spurred by my husband's counterattack, his lover suddenly became more energetic. "By the way, are you his wife? I couldn't even tell at first glance, because you look so shabby. Gosh, I even gave you a wonderful haircut at my place. How dare you talk to her like that?" Finally, my father-in-law raised his voice. "John, shut this girl up right now. And John, how dare you talk to your own wife like that? Shut up. That's how you make me the bad guy." Well, that's to be expected. Unlike my older brother and sister, I'm never good enough. You always made me take on extra classes because I was never talented. John, that's not right. Shut up, old hag. John raised his voice again. But my mother-in-law was right. My mother-in-law had always told me John's older brother and sister struggled in school, so we made John attend extra classes and tutoring, so he wouldn't have to struggle like his siblings. We did everything we could to make sure John didn't fall behind in school. He was showered with love, yet his view was skewed. After that, John continued to insult me and his parents, who tried to confront John, loudly calling them old man and old hag. "All of you don't understand me and always put me down. That's why I couldn't stand it and went for a girl who understands me. What's wrong with that?" Suddenly, John's phone rang. It was a call from someone. At first, John ignored it, but annoyed by the relentless ringing, he took out his phone to check it. Immediately, I could see the blood draining from John's face. Wondering what was wrong, I peeped at the screen to see a text. And just by looking at the text, I could tell his fury was flooding in like a demon. "How dare you? Because of you, our reputation is ruined. What are you doing and where are you? Come to my office right now." For some reason, John's boss was furious. I had no idea what was going on. John's phone went off again. This time, it seemed to be a call. And John answered in a flustered manner. "Charles, it's not what you think it is. I can explain." He got a call from Charles. From the moment I confronted John, I had called Charles to let him hear everything that went down. Charles requested for me to do so. Charles's voice was loud enough for us to hear. "No, I know just exactly what you did. I heard everything. I can't forgive you for all the rude things you said to your wife and berating my grandpa and grandma. How dare you? Also, Ashley will get a call soon too." At Charles's words, John's mistress shuddered. Huh? How does Charles know John's mistress? She's getting a call? From whom? I wondered, but I soon learned why. I'm currently interning at a hair salon for school, and the owner of the salon's right here with me. He's been listening to everything. He said he's even contacted your boss, John. Yes, that's right. Charles is aspiring to be a hairstylist and attends a cosmetology school. The salon where he is interning turned out to be the one John frequents. In retrospect, I just remembered that Charles was the one who introduced the place to John. But why would his manager call John's boss? In the middle of the call with Charles, John's phone went off again. John hurriedly looked at his phone, which he held up to his ear. The call was from his boss. The same one from earlier. "I'm so sorry." The first thing that John said when he put the phone back to his ear was a strained apology. However, the voice on the other end was just as furious as earlier. "No apology will make up for this. You having an affair with a worker from a hair salon run by our CEO's older brother. I let you be in charge to handle business with that store, since your nephew happened to be interning there. But how dare you make a fool out of us? Our CEO's older brother said he will no longer buy our cosmetics or our shampoo products ever again. He said he'll spread the word to the people and industry too. I was even more flabbergasted. Who would have thought that the hair salon was a business partner of John's company, and its manager was the CEO's brother? But the most shocking revelation of the day was yet to come. That girl, she's engaged to the son of the CEO's older brother, right? Did you lay a hand on her knowing that? I was dumbfounded. The woman had been cheating with John, even though she was engaged to the son of her manager. To summarize, John had an affair with a girl that worked at the hair salon that Charles had introduced him. The place happened to be owned by the older brother of John's company's CEO. The hair salon was actually an important client for John. And even worse, the girl he cheated with was engaged to her manager's son. It was clear that this would cause trouble in many ways if people found out. The audacity of these people. John's mistress also got a call. Ashley, do you think it's okay to have an affair with your client? You're even engaged to my son. What did you say to his wife? You're fired right here and now. Also, we're done dealing with that company's shampoo and cosmetics. Don't you and your man ever come here again. The frantic behavior of John and Ashley after that was something to behold. Both of them made numerous excuses and apologized over and over again on the phone, but it seemed to no avail. In the end, John turned beet red and Ashley left the hotel sobbing. I heard later that Charles, when he heard about John's affair, immediately suspected it was Ashley. So he consulted with the salon manager, and they both kept an eye on the situation here. After that, I divorced John. At first, he said, I don't need you anyway. But after Ashley told him she had been fired because of him, he turned around and started pleading with me. Don't divorce me. You're all I have, he said. But I cut him off without a second thought. And now, I've become a full-time employee at the grocery store where I worked part-time, and I'm studying to become the manager here. I owe it all to my years of dedication as a part-time worker. I don't need to rely on John's income anymore. By the way, I hear that John's sales performance has deteriorated rapidly since he lost the deal with that beauty salon. The rumors spread at his workplace, so I'm sure it affected John. According to Charles, John quit the company voluntarily. He was either encouraged to resign or felt uncomfortable staying at his workplace. After graduating from his cosmetology school, Charles got a job at that hair salon. Now, I am his regular customer. Although, he being a novice hairstylist cannot yet handle real customers, so he practices on me by cutting my hair. It's practice, so it's free, Charles says, but I feel bad about that, so I pay at least half the actual price. To be honest, Charles occasionally asks me out on dates, but I want to prioritize my work and my own time for now, so I've politely turned him down. The confrontation at the hotel was both dramatic and revealing. With my skeptical in-laws by my side, we caught John red-handed with his lover, Ashley, who turned out to be a hairstylist at the salon he frequented. The revelation didn't end there. Ashley was engaged to the son of John's company's CEO's brother, and their affair caused a scandal that led to John losing his job and reputation. Despite his pleas for forgiveness, I chose to move on and rebuild my life. Today, I am a full-time employee at the grocery store where I once worked part-time, and I am on my way to becoming a manager. Charles, my supportive nephew-in-law, now works at the salon and continues to be a good friend. This journey of betrayal and redemption has taught me the importance of self-respect and resilience. If you found this story compelling and want to hear more real-life experiences, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Have you ever confronted a cheater? Thank you for watching, and also, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I have a story that is filled with unexpected twists and emotional turmoil. The title says it all. Came home early to surprise my wife. What I discovered changed everything. I'm here to share a deeply personal story, not for pity, but to offer a glimpse into the complexities of love and betrayal. I've always been a one-woman man, taking marriage very seriously. I met my wife in the early 90s at a friend's wedding and fell in love instantly. We married after 6 months of dating, and I was committed to her, supporting her through difficult times, including her struggle with infertility. We tried everything to conceive, and after years of effort, we were blessed with a daughter through artificial insemination. Life seemed perfect, and I worked hard to provide for my family, showering my wife and daughter with love and care. One day, I had a work trip that got canceled unexpectedly. Excited to surprise my wife, I bought her flowers and champagne, only to find the door locked from the inside. When she finally opened it, I saw a man, a military officer, in our living room. The shock of discovering her betrayal left me paralyzed. What followed was a confession of multiple infidelities, each revelation more painful than the last. Stay tuned as I share how I navigated through the heartache and ultimately found a way to reclaim my life. I'm not telling my story to be pitted. After all, everything that happened is my life, and I certainly don't need pity. I am a one-woman man in my life. I've always taken marriage very seriously, maybe even too seriously. I never walked away from my wife because I never saw anyone around except my only wife. And there was no need for it, no desire for it either. Although I must admit that many women tried, but she gave me, and now about everything in order. I met my future wife in the early 90s, among the guests at a wedding of a friend of mine, and fell in love with her immediately. We dated her for 6 months and then decided to get married. We had a modest wedding and were over the moon. Our marriage was her second. She had developed a relationship with her ex-husband a year before we met. Something didn't work out there. I did not go to her with questions because I thought that there was no reason to stir up her soul, and she almost never said anything. By the way, my wife is a beautiful, smart woman and a great hostess. I was really lucky. When we got married, the whole country was in shambles. There were no normal, stable jobs. She was a medic and worked in a military unit, and I, apart from my main job, managed to work in 2 other places. It seemed to come out not bad. I wanted very much that the family had no need. From the first day I met my wife, I was very touchy about her. He loved her, but madly. In the truest sense of the word, he carried her in his arms. I considered her the closest and dearest person to me. 2 years of our life together had passed, but it didn't work out with children. It hurt her very much. She was very upset. She prophesied to me that I would leave her because of her own infertility. She was diagnosed with fallopian tubes. It was a terrible blow to her, but I did not despair. I was there for her, supported her, calmed her down. I told her she was my destiny and that I loved her more than life. I reassured her that I could do everything necessary to make her successful as a mother. After all, medicine can do a lot these days. She believed me, smiled at me, and for the sake of her smile, I was ready to give myself, just to make her happy. At the time, I was working very hard. I had a goal. I worked hard to reach it. I constantly needed money for various examinations by different doctors, consultations at institutes to buy medicines. We went and had several surgeries in different clinics, all sorts of witch doctors there and everything. Each time I believed that this time everything would happen and my wife would finally get pregnant. And then we would have a real life. But in spite of our efforts, nothing worked. It took almost 5 years. My wife lost all hope and put up with it. But me, I have always been an optimist and never gave up. I continued to believe in a miracle. My energy gave my wife strength. She always told me that it was easy for her to be with me. I could look forward to tomorrow with confidence and courage. I believed her, because I thought she was the person I was born to be with. And I must live my life for her. She is my strong backbone and my unbreakable bastion. If she is there, then I will overcome everything and be able to do anything. One day my wife and I read an article about the Human Reproduction Institute and the possibility of artificial insemination. This idea gave us new hope, new impetus, and strength to strive for our cherished goal. I was ready to turn the earth upside down and was more confident than ever that this time everything would work out for sure. The surgery itself and the rehabilitation period was, by my standards at the time, well, very expensive. So I began to look for a way to earn the required amount. The city we have a small and special choice was not, but I once came across an ad in one of the magazines and it sounded as follows. Reserve soldiers. We invite you to serve under contract, decent wages, and so on. In general, they were recruiting tools to do certain kinds of work in certain places and paid very good money for the work. I did my compulsory military service in the Marines and God bless me. Of course, I was not particularly raving about patriotic ideas, so I wasn't burning with a desire to lay down my life for somebody's political interests either. I just needed tools and resources to achieve our goal. In general, I thought about it and decided to take a risk. My wife cried and did not want to let me go. She was afraid and said that if something happened to me, she would not need the money later. And I was explaining that, unfortunately, we were not born into millionaire families and no one will ever give us anything for nothing in this life, unless you come and take it yourself. I calmed her down, told her that everything would be all right, because we need this money not for trinkets, but for a good cause. In general, I traveled to faraway places, wasn't home for a long time, but came back with what was needed. I was lucky, and I did not lay my head down, nor did I take sins on my soul. And then my wife and I went to the institute, had an operation, and oh miracle, it happened, which we were so alone. My wife got pregnant, I rejoiced. Soon our daughter was born. We were happy, just madly. I was literally flying on wings, working and doing almost everything around the house, helping not with the baby, because it was my pleasure, and I did not notice any worries at all. My wife said that I was an eternal engine, and I really wanted to surround her and my daughter with every kind of care. And soon I got a good and decent stable job and started earning good money. I bought a car for my wife. We moved to a bigger apartment, and every year we traveled to the seas and oceans. We spent all our free time together, tried to make up our leisure time, trips to the countryside, to the movies, skiing, skating rink, etc., so my girls wouldn't get bored. Thinking back to those days, it seemed to me here was a candy truck rolling over on our street, and we deserved it. That's how 14 years of our life together passed, and how happy I thought it would be. My daughter was slowly growing up. Family always came first for me. Everything was just for my loved ones. I never felt that my life is ordinary, that it is monotonous. Scandal in the family has never been. I respect for my wife avoided even a reason for her discontent, and if something she did not like the little things, went first to a compromise. I always tried to pay attention to her as a woman. I do not remember a day when I did not tell her how much I loved her and how much I valued her. When we were poor, I always found an opportunity to make her pleasant surprises, with or without cause. Flowers, small gifts, and various girlish trinkets. She always liked it so much. In bed with my spouse, everything was fine too. I am not conservative, and it seemed to me that we are absolutely open, that we trust each other. I tried to be sensitive to all my wife's interest, and in my opinion, everything was very harmonious. And she herself always said that she was happy with everything, and that I fully satisfy her needs. And now a word about jealousy. I can say that I have never been jealous of her. She never gave me any reason to be, even though she worked as a medic in an almost male-dominated team, a military unit. In my work, I periodically went on long business trips for a week and a half, or even 2 weeks. I always looked forward to returning home to my beloved. She too, always met me with joy and awe. And then? Then everything was like in the movies or anecdotes. One day I was flying on business on another expedition, and in the city where I had to change flights. I received a message from my colleagues that my work was canceled, and I had to return home. I flew back to my city in the afternoon, bought a small bouquet of roses and champagne, and decided to surprise my wife, without telling her. By my count, she was still at work, and my daughter at school. I took a cab home, started to open the door with a key. But the door was locked from the inside. I thought, well, there's no surprise. Started ringing the doorbell. Zero emotion. Knocked and rang, began to worry, not understanding what was happening. I even wanted to call the police, but finally my wife's voice asked me from the door. Who's there? I said, honey, what are you? Why are you scaring me? It's me. I canceled a business trip. Even then, I thought she was asleep or maybe sick. And then she opened the door, and I did not recognize her, and it was a completely different person. Her eyes were alien. She looked as if I was not there, as if through me. I went into the hallway, and through the open door into the hall, I saw some military officer sitting in an armchair. Only then did I notice that my wife was wearing a naked robe, and suddenly I realized everything. She told me in a calm tone, "You're bleeding." I saw that the stinging bouquet was growing with such force that I literally squeezed it through my fingers. For the first time in my life, my legs trembled so much. So much so that I just sat down at the door on the floor. It's hard for me to describe in words how I felt at that moment. I couldn't breathe. I was suffocating. There was a tornado of thought in my head and everything. It was like a dream. I couldn't believe my eyes. It didn't seem like it was happening to me, because it just couldn't happen to me at all. My wife is not capable of that. Then she said, "We need to talk. I hope you're not going to make a scandal. He's not guilty of anything." But me, I couldn't even stand up at that minute, let alone scandalize. If I'd had a fit of rage, I probably would have done something irreparable. But now I realize, thank God, that I didn't. I didn't see him disappear from the apartment unnoticed. My wife and I stayed behind. She sat down on her knees in front of me and said, "This happens in life." And she cried. I'd remember bits and pieces of what she told me. "I can't live like this anymore. I'm confused. I want to repent to you. You are good. I am bad. You are unworthy." Then she began to tell me how many times in her whole life she had cheated on me. I had thoughts that she wanted to destroy me. She went on. She told me that the very first time was with her ex-husband. In the beginning of our relationship, when she and I first started dating. She said she met her ex intentionally and gave herself to him to prove to him what kind of woman he had lost. Then she cheated on me with some military medic in another city when I did a refresher course. She gave herself to him out of pity. He was very romantic and was suffering. Suffering because he had recently divorced his wife. Read the elements to her. Then there was another military doctor, but already in our town. Then another, and finally came to the last one with whom I actually caught them our house. She told me that they had been having an affair for almost a month and that she had wanted to break up with him. But she hadn't had time. She said they always met at work and that she was nasty because she desecrated our house and so on. When I listened to her, I asked, "Why did you do this to me?" She sobbed straight into a screen and said she couldn't explain to me the reasons for her actions. It is an inexplicable passion, and there is no excuse for it, and it is up to me to make the decision. At the same time, she swore that if I could find the strength to forgive her, she would be faithful to me to the grave. For the first few days, I couldn't sleep or eat at all. Like a robot, I went to work, came home, just lay there and stared at the ceiling. At night, I was drenched in cold sweat, drinking water, and smoking nonstop. I did not touch alcohol, by the way. My colleagues asked me what happened. They said I was all black. My wife saw what was happening to me and constantly cried and begged for forgiveness. I didn't know what to say to her, so I kept quiet. I didn't know where to go or where to fail. My head wasn't working at all. Later, I was going to talk to her many times, to share my soul with her as I always had before, to tell her how much I loved her, but I couldn't find the right words. There was a lump in my throat that I couldn't help but spit out and swallow. 6 months went by like that. During that time, I kept thinking and remembering our life. Dating inside myself, looking for answers. Maybe it was me. I was doing something wrong. I chewed myself out of the whole guilt complex at the time. During that time, I had given up on my wife both emotionally and physically. The thought of sexual intimacy with her never even occurred to me. I became afraid of having sex with her. I don't know how to explain it. It seemed to me that I was not able to satisfy her. That's why there was no reason to go to bed. It would only embarrass me. We communicated with her on domestic topics. To my daughter, I allocated attention without prejudice as before. Most of all, I wanted my daughter not to suspect anything. At that time, she was at the beginning of her teenage years and I didn't want to hurt her because she had nothing to do with the circumstances. Then later, the emotions went away and the pain in my soul somewhat subsided. One day, I decided to talk to my wife and told her that I did not hold a grudge against her, that I loved her just as much. I told her that what happened probably changed something in me. But so far, I can't figure out what it is. I guess it takes time. I asked my wife to promise me that if life with me didn't turn out the way she wanted it to, that she would tell me right away. I won't hold back. There was no time to waste. Life is one, and things can still work out differently and with another person. We became close again, but not the way we were. I tried to be the same as before, but in bed with his wife began incomprehensible problems with potency. It made me gnaw on myself even more. So another 6 years went by, and the family was always in the first place for me. And the question of whether it was cheating on me or not, I stopped wondering. She was just as beautiful, smart, a great hostess, and a good mom. Yes, I forgave her, but something didn't break you. Everything in the soul came out. Empty. This poison poisoned me to the bone. My unbreakable bastion collapsed like a house of cards. And somehow the feeling of new did not. In time, I became a different person. The true meaning of the word treason is that everything has changed. I had changed. I remembered with a smile the days when I wandered far and wide, earning money to give birth to my daughter. Back then, I had the phrase written on my backpack unloading. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. After a while, I suddenly stopped feeling the inner weight that had been weighing me down for so long. It's all strange. Really strange. I tried to comprehend and understand what had kept me from changing my life before. I don't know. I had always been an optimist and believed in the best. I hoped that things would settle down and be okay. And it did settle down, but at the same time, something very important left my soul. The very thing that gave meaning to the existence of our marriage. The very thing that motivated me to keep going. My stupid responsibility dictated that I couldn't drop everything and just walk out, because that would be a betrayal. But it was, no, not a betrayal. Just like that, suddenly and all of a sudden my attitude toward everything that had happened was different. I suddenly felt that my inner changes in my head had come to an end. It was as if I had woken up from oblivion. I realized that for a long time, I had not been living my life at all. A complete stranger to me. My wife, who was sleeping beside me, I looked at her sleeping, at her face. I realized I didn't know this woman anymore. I left home that morning, turned off my phone, drove around town, stood on the roadsides in the woods. It's hard to explain, but somehow I felt at ease. I felt like a bird out of its cage. It felt like I had paid for all my mistakes in full. I thought and remembered and became more and more aware of my freedom. In the evening, I returned home, where I informed my wife of everything. There was a long talk, but no recriminations. She cried and said she had been waiting for this day all the time. Strangely enough, I no longer felt pity for her. I correctly explained to her my understanding of life at that moment, and she told me hers. She asked for forgiveness over and over again, and I told her that I had forgiven her long ago, but that I was no longer the man she had married. We lived almost 23 years. All 15 years until the breaking point, I lived only for her and my daughter. In the next 8 years, I don't even remember. In all that time, I never once reproached her for anything. I lived through everything, but during that time, a lot has changed, especially my understanding and attitude towards everything. I realized that further marriage with her was a waste of time. My daughter grew up and almost jumped out of the family nest. The wife came to terms with it. I think she realized that our paths had parted long ago, and we just went side by inertia. But to be objective, there were good things in our life. While I was in the dark, nothing existed for me. I was happy. We finalized the divorce. I explained everything to my daughter. She is old enough now and understood everything. We continue to see her much more often than we see our wife. Life goes on, and the emptiness that echoed in my soul for so long, it no longer rings. There is no permanent woman. I'm afraid, and I don't want one. Now I know for sure that what doesn't kill us all at once, it makes us invalids. Dear friends, our next audio story has come to an end. Frankly speaking, I liked this story, and in 2 words, I will tell you why. First, I was expecting at most 1 or 2 betrayals from my wife, but as I read this list, it made me, how can I tell you, feel the greatest pity for her. And even for a second, I felt like I was in the main character's shoes. God forbid, I even remember having that same emotion come over me during the recording. I hope nothing was audible, but that's for you to judge. The story of the main character's life itself. In the process of reading the text, it made me deeply disgusted. After all, is it normal? You fell in love with a woman and did not even ask about her past, especially since she was married. Naively believing, risking your life for the sake of happiness, the questionable happiness of your couple. Overall, the way he behaved cannot be called worthy of a man, I believe. Plus, there is one inconsistency. Look, he risked his life in hot spots, and when he sought his lover in his, I emphasize, in his house, the poor guy was dumbfounded and crouched on the carpet, that he didn't even see the lover leave the apartment. And in general, what do you think? Is it okay to then live 8 years together and feel like nothing because of day to day? Of course, what pleased me, if you can say so at all, was the ending. He somehow found the strength to leave his wife. But does that count as courage? That's a ridiculous question. What do you think of his behavior? Do you think you could have noticed before that his wife was like a March cat on every corner, making horns? You could take it and drink it. And by tradition, if you liked the video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to comment. I always answer you in the comments. And also listen to your suggestions, and in general, your activity makes me not to stop and record stories every day. Well, see you soon, friends. After discovering my wife's numerous affairs, I was in a state of shock and despair. For 6 months, I was a shadow of myself, unable to sleep or eat, consumed by the betrayal. My wife begged for forgiveness, but the pain was too deep. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life, focusing on my daughter and trying to find peace. Despite my efforts to mend our relationship, the trust and love we once had were irreparably damaged. One day, I realized that I had been living in a cage of my own making, clinging to a marriage that no longer existed. I decided to leave, to find myself again. My wife and I divorced, and though it was a difficult decision, it was necessary for my own healing. I now have a renewed sense of freedom and clarity, focusing on my. If you found this story compelling and want to hear more real-life experiences, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Have you ever faced a betrayal that changed your life? Thank you for watching, and I'll